What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. Okay, mailbag time. At John Middlekauff is the Instagram. Fire in those DMs. Get your questions answered on the show. Want to bang out a bunch. If you guys, we're going to do, I'm going to need you probably later in the week, so fire back in those DMs at John Middlekauff. You guys know the drill. This is your time to shine in the offseason. This is from Kevin. Good question. Did you see Big Ben's take that he would take prime Rodgers over prime Mahomes? What are your thoughts? You know what's funny is on my YouTube, I don't even know, homepage, Roethlisberger podcast where I don't know who his buddy is, young kid, it looks like, popped up today, and I watched for a minute. It was like Ben talking about his vacation, but I didn't hear him say that. I saw the headline. Listen, you could, and this is what I noticed in Enigma, you could make the argument in the peak of his powers, I'm talking regular season, is as good of a quarterback that has ever played. I mean, Aaron was a total package. He was smart. He was athletic. He had a huge arm. He could make throws from the pocket. He could scramble and make throws on the run, meaning he was a playmaker. And he was incredibly accurate. And he could play in all weather types. Like, he was as good of an individual player in the regular season that's ever played. Now, I think if you wanted to nitpick, early on, the defense let him down. I do think he let them down a little bit as he got older. But this isn't like, I would take, I think there's something special about what Mahomes brings to the table. But, like, listen, you could argue, like, anything you wanted in sports, right? You'd go Rodgers. Well, Mike McCarthy was his head coach. Don Capers was his defensive coordinator. You put 26-year-old Aaron Rodgers with Andy freaking Reid and Steve Spagnuolo and let, like, that operation, who do you like? You go, I think it's a fair argument. Would Aaron Rodgers just have one Super Bowl if in the prime of his career, from like 10 to 15, he was on this Chiefs team? Now, would he have gone to 5 to 6 Super Bowls or 5 of 6 Super Bowls? Yeah. I think you could make the argument that you would rather have Mahomes in some of these situations. Though Mahomes played a little like Rodgers in some of these big games, right? Just don't make a mistake, play smart, and his defense got the job done. Now, like, listen, I would take Mahomes. After watching Enigma, I think there's some element of Mahomes that just resonates with human beings more than Rodgers. But I don't think it's the craziest take. I really don't. I think if you put in his prime Aaron Rodgers and you give him to Belichick in 2001, or you give him to Bill Walsh in 1983, like, I think you're winning a lot of Super Bowls as well. But that's not how we play the game. Like, I don't think it's absurd of a take as like when Daryl Morey used to call James Harden a better offensive player than Michael Jordan. It's like, Daryl, you lost us. Like, you lost the argument. And I also understand from Big Ben's perspective. Plus, listen, we talked about Brady with the bias for Sam Darnold. There's an element here of, like, Ben played against Rodgers, saw how fucking good he was. He's like, I'm Big Ben. I'm going to the Hall of Fame. I'm one of the best quarterbacks of my generation, and this guy's way better than me. And I've won 2 Super Bowls. I'm not a better player than this guy. So I get it. When you see something, like, you're not going to convince me there's anyone better at sports talk and what they do than Coward. Why? I've had a front row seat. I saw it last week. I've listened forever. I've podcasted with him, and then I saw him work live on television. I'm like, that's as good as it gets. It's crazy how talented this guy is. And, I think part of any of our experiences are just what we see, right? And I think there's an element of that with Ben, with Aaron. Out of water. You forgot Jalen Hurts in your top 10 on your last pod. Please tell me that's the name you were missing. Jalen Hurts, top 10 quarterback. I would agree. Sometimes when you're doing this stuff on the fly. Okay, this is from Matt. My twin brother and I are having a debate on who will be the better team this upcoming season, the Broncos or the Raiders. With Peyton Bowe second year in the system with a better run game and elite defense, I think the Broncos are sneaky good and could win a playoff game or two. My twin thinks the Raiders win a playoff game. There's no way. The Broncos had one of the best defenses in the league. They led the league in sacks. Their offense is going to be better. Their quarterback threw 29 touchdowns last year. They already have an established culture operation. Pete Carroll's never coached these guys, even if they vastly improve. There's no way you could objectively pick the Raiders going into this season over the Broncos. Now, if you're a Raider fan, I totally get it, but like based on all the evidence we have, the roster, you would have to take the Broncos. So I would. I think it's not inconceivable that the Broncos or the Chargers win the division. Right? I mean, are the Chiefs going to win it 15 straight years? They're going to have one of these years where just they win 11 games and someone in their division wins 13. Two questions. My partner and I are looking to plan a golf spa trip. Do you have any recommendations in Scottsdale? Furthermore, how do you see the Jets doing this year? I would say two hotels that jump out to me that also have golf courses would be the Desert Ridge Hotel. It's in North Scottsdale. I stayed there years ago when I was kind of looking at trying to buy property here. I came out here for like 10 days. That's where I met my future wife. Um, especially if you have kids. It's got like a lazy river. It's just a cool hotel. I think they got 27 holes of golf behind it. Jack Nicklaus and Nick Faldo developed it. It's a cool property. And then the Phoenician, same type thing. I would imagine both. I'm not a big spa day guy. I mean, I like a good steam room and a sauna, but I've never got a spa day here. But I would imagine both have, uh, you know, the infrastructure there for spa day. You'd have to check. But I'd say Desert Ridge or the Phoenician. Also, just like I said, golf. The Jets, I think they're not going to be very good. If I had to bet, like more than likely they're selling off some of their parts by the trade deadline. This is a reset. Uh, it'll be fascinating. Brees Hall has already been on the trading block. I think the Sauce thing is pretty fascinating. I had a scout in the league that told me, not even a scout, I mean, he's like an assistant GM that said, listen, those first 2 years, they let Sauce, they weren't calling PIs. He got to be as physical as he wanted. And when he's tall, long corner, he could fucking maul you. Last year, what happened? They started throwing the flag. Sauce is not a 4-3. He's not Derek Stingley. So if they don't let him maul you at the line, like he's not just going to be able to mirror you in the hip pocket. So it's going to be fascinating. His first 2 years, like all pro. So if you're Sauce, you're like thinking, give me $100 million. And if you're the Jets, I could not do that. I'd have to let it play out a little bit. And then if it plays out and not the right way, and you're not going to give him a extension, what's his market? He does fit some specific type defenses. You know, I don't know. He's going to be a fascinating case study. I think the Jets are just not going to be good. And not because, Aaron Glenn's an impressive guy, but Fields your starting quarterback, a lot of just unknown, with just how last year went, how these guys are going to bounce back. Or I don't know. I don't have high hopes for the kind of the squad. Pro golfers drive for show and putt for dough. The easiest shot for you to make some dough, betting on this week's tournament at DraftKings Sportsbook. From the opening round to live on Sunday, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered with live betting and player props. I'll give you something. We got the Rocket Mortgage Classic this weekend, up in Detroit. And Colin Morikawa is currently the betting favorite. But how about Cam Young? You get it plus 2,800. That's bet $100 to win 2,800. And you can also get them 5-1 to top 5, plus 260 to top 10. The other thing that's great about golf, you can bet on guys to top 10 to top 20. Don't even need them to win the tournament. So if you want to get in on the action, I highly recommend it. And here's something for our first timers. New DraftKings customers can bet $5 to win 150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use the code JOHN. That's code JOHN for new customers to get 150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. I was listening to the New Heights podcast a few days ago where Jason Kelce started comparing the Chiefs rookie Josh Simmons physically to players like Jason Peters and Trent Williams. However, do you think he truly will be able to be an above-average left tackle for the Chiefs like Eric Fisher? Or do you think the Chiefs O-line will be good without a player like Joe Tooney. I didn't listen to the podcast, but I obviously, do this for a living. I saw the headlines of Jason. One thing's pretty clear is Jason, I don't know what is, if he has an official title, but like he watches offensive linemen for Howie and he likes doing it. And I would imagine Howie's like, this guy could be there when we draft, right? Because of the injury. And the Eagles probably were interested anytime a guy I mean, look, they took Jahad Campbell, who also, like Josh Simmons, the only reason he was there because of injury. Josh Simmons, before he got injured, was going in the top 10. Now, when you compare, Jason Peters was a tight end in college. Trent Williams went fourth overall. I think both those guys share two characteristics of physically, there aren't many human beings like either one. Both guys could be 350 pounds and they still move around as a foot athlete like they're a linebacker. They are elite athletes. They are just in this body type that, I mean, a small percentage of human beings are on the planet that have 6'5", the girth to be 340, 350 pounds, and then athletically move like that. But both guys, when they're right physically in their primes, Trent, we'll see if he's still in it. Obviously, Jason's prime ended years ago. We're not, I mean, they were as good as it gets at left tackle. Josh Simmons, I, I think, I think the scary thing for him would be that what didn't he tear his patella? What? Yeah, that's now. Listen, my dad tore his patella when I was in junior high. Maybe I was in elementary school. It would have been the mid to late 90s. This is a man in his 50s, so I'm not comparing him to an athlete, but it's a very serious injury. It's not an ACL. It's not even Achilles. It's not like Tommy John. Like it's some injuries like that. You're never quite the same. And I think it shows you because most people would agree him coming out even more than Will Campbell. This guy physically had the highest upside. Like if anyone was going to be just a 7-time Pro Bowler at left tackle, it was going to be this guy. If he had torn his ACL, not torn his patella, there's no way he makes it to the Chiefs. None. Would never have made it that far. He would have gone probably still in the top 15. Even if someone's like, I'm redshirting him, it's worth it. But, the patella thing is scary. My dad's knee never was the same. Honestly, when he got into his mid to late 60s, he should have got a knee replacement. This guy's, how old's Josh Simmons? He's 22 years old. So, I mean, obviously, your body recovers differently. If everything's fine and he just comes out of it like a player that tears ACL, breaks the leg, whatever, the Chiefs are going to have one of the best players in the draft for sure. Because physically, like this guy was at Ohio State for a reason. It was a big deal when he got injured. I always like to look at blue chip guys like this. If you just go to Josh Simmons rivals, like if you just go to his what he was like coming out of high school, he was not the craziest recruit ever, I guess. 4-star, originally signed with San Diego State, then obviously blew up. Actually started at San Diego State. I actually didn't know that. Started at San Diego State and then transferred to Ohio State. So this guy's a transfer portal. Went to Helix High School. You guys want to play a little trivia? You know who else went to Helix High School? Well, given that only I'm on the podcast, I'll answer. Alex Smith and Reggie Bush. It's in I think North San Diego, it's considered. This is a good signing for the San Diego State. That's the sad part about the fucking transfer portal. It's like you're San Diego State, you get Josh Simmons, who Jason Kelce's comparing to Trent Williams and Jason Peters, and then all of a sudden the guy ends up at Ohio State. How is the little guy supposed to compete? Fresno State, San Diego State, Boise State. They get their Josh Simmons, and then all of a sudden 2 years later, the guy's at Ohio State. And I don't blame Josh Simmons for going to Ohio State. I'd go to Ohio State too. Can you imagine Josh Simmons? Like, the transfer portal's got some good players. There can't be many guys. This guy's a future first round pick at left tackle entering the transfer portal from a smaller Division One program. I can't even imagine how many people are coming after that guy. Okay, this is from Richie. Congratulations on your wedding. Congrats on filling in for the herd. This guy's giving me a lot of congrats. Why do you think the UFC and MMA is not discussed more in major sports networks like FS1? Look at this weekend. UFC had a major event, UFC 317, which I believe was stacked with great fights and fan favorite fighters. The event also delivered with many finishes via TKO, KO, or submission. I guess I would prefer shows like The Herd and First Things First to discuss more UFC content over topics regarding the LA Lakers, the irrelevant Dallas Cowboys, fly Eagles fly, or the WNBA. I would like to know your opinion of the UFC and Dana White and how mainstream can you envision the company growing? It's a pretty good question. I do think there are two elements to this. One, if you if you're Colin or Nick or whoever, what first take, the majority, 90% of what you're going to talk is going to be football and basketball. And, depending on the show, like Colin's probably 70 football, 75 football, and 25 basketball. Some of the other shows, maybe, first takes 50-50, right? They talk a ton of NBA. I would imagine Nick Wright's show talks a lot of NBA too. But, like, that works. Like, that's a winning formula. Not every guy is going to be in the UFC, right? I would say the UFC, like tennis or golf or F1 or NASCAR, baseball has become very niche in the sense of people following it very, very intently. So if I just like, hey, here's a topic on Steph Curry or here's a topic on Jalen Hurts, most sports fans are going to be able to follow along. I'm a good example. I have a lot of respect for the business that the Fertitta brothers, the Dana White. When I went to Cal Poly, Chuck Liddell was becoming a rocket ship. He was a Cal Poly grad. He trained in Cal Poly. Or in San Luis Obispo. He would show up at the frat parties when I was in college and like steal the hottest chick. Like it was a big deal because we were in that little world. But like the UFC the other night, I didn't watch. Not because I don't respect the fighters. I'm just not that into it for whatever reason. Right? And I know Daniel Cormier seems like an awesome dude. Rogan, Anik, like their whole operation is really, really high level, but it still is in terms of one, anytime you get pay-per-view, you have a barrier to entry where these other sports are just they're not technically free, right? Because cable box or whatever. But for the most part, like it's easy to watch an NBA playoff game or an NFL game or a college football game. It is a little more challenging to watch that. And I think Caitlin Clark's a good example. She became a story on the main networks before everyone was watching her, but then it drove people to watch. But like you'd have to be pretty passionate to do that and hope that people would a huge part of these television shows is ratings. So you do things that will work. So like Colin knows that if me and him and he was really cool too, like he did a couple segments where it was a back and forth with me. He didn't have to do that. And we chose I mean he chose, but like you want to do NFL segments? I'm like, yeah. He knows it's going to work. If I was a former baseball scout, we wouldn't do like my 5 favorite players in Major League Baseball, right? We wouldn't do that. And Fox has some Major League Baseball. So I think it's a long-winded way of saying, one, I think it's still, in a weird way, not that mainstream, even though it's a very lucrative operation now. And Dana White's really famous, and I do think if Connor was still involved, like you can, I do golf on this medium, one, because I love it. I follow it. I mean, today I'm watching Max Grazerman go at it with this dude from South Africa and Jake Knapp and live on the other television. Like that's not normal. And I know that when I do go low tomorrow, that most people probably haven't watched the Rocket Mortgage tournament. I don't blame you. Wouldn't watch it either if I had something else to do. So, that it's a little like that with UFC. But if Tiger Woods had just played in the Rocket Mortgage and won the Rocket Mortgage, you could talk about it and people would follow along. Just like if Conor McGregor were still fighting, like someone that famous, you could talk about it and people would follow along. It's why, like, when Jake Paul fought, if he wanted to fight Mike Tyson, like, people kind of pay attention. In a sport like that, the individual firepower, you need a superstar to break through. And I don't even know if Chuck was quite that. He was close. And then they've had, I would say Connors, and I think even Dana said, right, he's the most important fighter that's ever come along in terms of mainstream popularity and fame. Like, golf was around well before Tiger Woods showed up. He changed the sport in terms of. I love country music. Without Garth Brooks, country music doesn't become as mainstream as it became the last 25 years. Change the fucking game for everybody. Open the floodgates for guys like Tim McGraw, Kenny Chesney, Jason Aldean, Luke Bryan to become worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Before that, it was kind of like redneck honky tonk, very, I would say, a little niche music. And it no longer is. You could argue now it's the most popular music going. And a big reason for that happened when I was a kid with Garth Brooks in the 90s. That broke through. That whether you like country music or you didn't like country music, you followed Garth Brooks. And I think individual sports have elements of that. Tiger Woods was that. I would imagine back in like the 50s and 60s, Arnold Palmer was like that. We've seen that in tennis. Like, Pete Sampras was way better than Andre Agassi. Andre Agassi was the more important player in terms of like commercial fame. So I don't know if I specifically, because I don't know if there's a specific answer. Like, I think Colin could probably answer that question like, no, it just doesn't work. Uh, I also think you're talking to an audience of like, I don't know how many people buy the pay-per-view because I love sports. It's like the majority of things that I watch. I don't order the pay-per-views, and I like fighting. I like watching people get their ass kicked. Though there was something, one of the guys that got KO'd, he got knocked out. Dude hit him right across the face. He's out. As he hits the ground, I bet his head hits the canvas, also knocks him out. He is out. I mean, it's clear the guy's done. This dude jumps on him, hammer punches his face before the ref could get there. I like violence. I am pro violence. A little unnecessary. I was like, Jesus. Felt uncomfortable watching. In a good way, but it was had to hurt. The 4th of July is more than just a long weekend or a good fireworks show. It's a celebration of freedom, a show of patriotism and gratitude for people who have made our freedom possible. For some families, today carries a deeper meaning. They carry the weight of sacrifice every day. Folds of Honor is meeting that sacrifice with hope, making sure their loved one's legacy is not forgotten. Through life changing educational scholarships, Folds of Honor supports the families of fallen and disabled service members and first responders. This Independence Day, as we celebrate what freedom means, take a moment to honor our nation's heroes and their families. Help honor their sacrifice, give hope. Visit foldsofhonor.org. Okay, hey, John. I think your criticisms of the Dolphins are reasonable, considering they're coming off an 8-9 season. However, Tua led the league in completion percentage, 72% last year. I also think they had a pretty good draft. If their O-line is even average, I think they will go back to their 23 form. They also were missing 7 starters last year. Ramsey can get them a trade package. Can he, though? Because if he could, he'd be gone. I don't know if Jalen can get you a trade package. Uh, Maybe we're all just overlooking a scenario where they actually are decent in the years. My guess is 9-8. Yeah, I'm betting on them to suck. I am. I'm with you. I think Tua gets unfairly criticized. Like, he's not as bad as I think the way he's talked about, but can't play outdoors late in the season. We know that's a fact. And then the injury risks are just pretty high. Is Scary Terry a Hall of Fame on a Hall of Fame run? He's had 1,000-yard season every single year since he's been in the league, but no one talks about it. If he continues for another 4 years, is he a Hall of Famer? I I think sometimes, you know, the Hall of Fame talk, you can accumulate enough numbers to be in the Hall of Fame. And listen, Terry McLaurin is a really good player. And like you said, he's been from 20. 87, 1100, 77, 1000, 77, 1100, 79, 1000, 82, 1000. When I watch Terry McLaurin, I don't think Hall of Famer, right? Like when I watch Justin Jefferson, I think Hall of Fame. Jamar Chase, I think Hall of Fame. When I watch Terry McLaurin, really good. Whatever happened to just like, this guy's just good. This guy's a good player. I feel like the NFL Hall of Fame is kind of becoming the NBA Hall of Fame, or I guess it's not even the NBA Hall of Fame, it's the Basketball Hall of Fame, where everyone kind of gets in. Where it's like, I like my Hall of Fames to be like, yeah, Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Kobe Bryant, Shaq, LeBron, Steph, like the Deion Sanders, the best of the best. Like Terry McLaurin's a good. I'd want him on my team. Does anyone think? And I'm not trying to shit on your take here, but I Terry McLaurin is not a Hall of Famer to me. Does that mean if he has another 5 years playing like he's playing, who knows? Yeah, I wouldn't put it past him. But like, I just think sometimes like Aaron Donald, you know, Trent Williams, Hall of Famer should be pretty obvious. There should be you should know right away. It shouldn't be an acquired taste. Should not be an acquired. Like I used to when I was a kid, I didn't like mustard. Now I like mustard on my sandwiches. Used to hate tomatoes. Now I can't eat a sandwich without tomatoes. You should know right away. You know what I never turned down? Pizza. I liked it my whole life. It's like I watched this player like this guy is elite. I don't like there can be a level of player that between like not trying to replace but also not going to the Hall of Fame. And that's listen, sports debate talk has kind of created this, but he's good. I mean, I'm not putting that much emphasis. He's two-time Pro Bowler, second team All Pro. I mean, his career high in catches is his second year, 87. Not all his fault, but I mean, he's like averages essentially 78 catches a year, 1,000 yards, like 4 or 5 touchdowns, which is fucking good. He's going to make $150 million playing in the NFL. Mel, okay, last question. This is from Cameron. Maybe it's the fan in me, but whenever I hear Baker grouped with guys like Geno and Darnold, I feel like it's disrespectful. He had decent numbers in Cleveland, and since joining Tampa, has arguably been a top 8, 9 guy. With the weapons he has this year, do you think he can perform well enough to be consistently talked about as a top tier guy in the book that's already been written? I agree, comparing him to Geno Smith is unfair. He is a better player objectively than Geno Smith. Like even Geno's good games, like Geno had a lot of bad games and big moments. Geno's solid. Like to me, Geno is your classic like somewhere between 13 and 17. And over the course of the year has good and bad, but like serious limitations, but makes up for it with leadership. He's got a big arm so he can make some big plays. But like you never watch Geno like, it's a top 7 quarterback. Like you have Baker games are like, is this one of the best players in the league? And him and Sam were on the same team. Now, both of them different world ago. Baker beat him out. Now you could argue that they were going to start Baker no matter what. Still happened. Um, I'm with you. I think Baker. I would expect a huge year from Baker. I mean, I like Tampa to win that division. I like Baker to throw 35, 40 touchdowns, and I think he's going to be well established as competing to be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFC. Like the one thing with the AFC is you have like all-time great players, right? Mahomes, Hall of Fame. Lamar, Hall of Fame. Josh Allen, Hall of Fame. Joe Burrow, probably going to be Hall of Fame. Um, Herbert, fucking good. But you got big time quarterbacks. In the NFC, you got, okay, Jaden, incredible rookie year. See, back it up, which I expect him to do. I'm not down on him. You know, you got Jalen, who everyone loves Jalen Hurts after the Super Bowl. There were times last season where people were like, what the hell is going on with the pass game? You know, Jalen can be a frustrating player at times. Obviously, very talented, dual threat guy. You know, Goff, his good games look damn good in the dome, but it can have games where you're like, God, that was pretty bad. It's not exactly murderer's row in the NFC. Stafford's 38 years old. Purdy, depending on who you ask, either is awesome or sucks. So the competition Baker has to go, and especially in his own division, you got Bryce, you got Penix, and sometimes the South. You know what's crazy? This happens to me every time. You got Tampa, You have New Orleans, you have Carolina, and Atlanta. You got Tyler Shuck, Penix, and Bryce. And there's a chance Tampa wins that division by a couple games. What if Atlanta doesn't win, like goes like 8-9 or 7-10? Is Arthur Blank gonna fire everybody? That thing could get weird, and that thing could get weird fast. But I'm with you. I think Baker has established himself as one of the big guns, definitely in the NFC. And that's how many you're only playing four AFC games. Well, I guess it flip flops. Maybe you're playing five this year. But let's just end with this. Let's just pull up Tampa's schedule. Who they went 10-7 last year. So they open with the Falcons. Like them to win that game. At the Texans, Jets, Eagles, at Seahawks, Niners, at Lions, at Saints, Patriots, at Bills, at Rams. Schedule is actually, they got some tough games because they play the NFC West. If they could just kind of be around 500, the last 6, 7 games get kind of easy. Cardinals, Saints, Falcons, Panthers, Dolphins, Panthers. So if they can be around like 6-6, 5-5, they got a stretch here where they could take advantage of it. But they got some tough games early. At Houston's not an easy game. That's Monday Night Football, it looks like. Might be a Monday Night Football doubleheader. Get the Eagles at home. Have Heat on their side. At Seattle, that's not easy. Then you got to fly all the way home to play the Niners the next week. Then you got to go at Detroit, which is a Monday night game. That's a good Monday Night Football game. To me, where they really got to take advantage of is they just got to dominate within their division. And I don't see why they won't. Like I would say what they do last year in the division. They went 4-2. I mean, I think if they go 4-2 again, they're probably maybe they're a 9-win team this year, but if they go 5-1, I mean, I don't see how they wouldn't be, a 10-win team.